Are you all already planning for 2021? Because I feel like I'm already planning for 2022 and 2023 at this point. Hey y'all, so I wanted to talk to you all about my 2021 focus and goals. I've changed a lot of how I do my TBR and what I'm focusing on in the coming year. My TBR is full of a lot of books that start series. So the first book in a long series, which is not strange because I'm reading mostly fantasy here, and fantasy tends to run in series rather than just standalones. So it's not abnormal. However, I was looking at my TBR and I've got so many series on there that I don't want to start 30 series almost and not finish any of them. So in 2021, what I'm mostly going to focus on are finishing series. I don't want to have any more than 3 to 4 series going at a time. Now, I've got some projects that I'll talk about separately, so stay tuned for Wheel of Time, Malazan, and Stormlight Archive info. That's going to be in a little bit, but the first series that I'm going to try to focus on is going to be the Rhaeria Revelations. I've read the first book out of the 3, so I want to go ahead and finish these 2 up. I really loved the first book, I love the humor, and I'm excited to keep going. The next series that I want to go ahead and wrap up is going to be The Burning. So the second book is Fires of Vengeance. I haven't bought it yet, but that is going to be the second book in The Burning, and it's going to be the only one that is out yet. So I know it's not going to finish the series, but at least I'll have caught up to what has been published. The next series that I'm probably the most excited about is going to be The Faithful and the Fallen by John Gwynne. So I'm going to be picking up with Valor. I read Malice a while back, and I can't believe I just kept putting it off even though I wanted to continue because Malice was so great. So I'm ready to finally get this going. And the 4th series that I want to try to complete is going to be The Band. So the second book is Bloody Rose, and the first is Kings of the Wild. So those are the 4 series that I'm going to be focusing on to finish before starting new series from my TBR. If you watched some of my older videos, you all know that I used to do my TBR in sets of 10. So if I found a book that I would like, I would just put it to my want list. Once that hit 10, I would set it aside, and that would be my group of 10, and then I would read out of that 10. That was supposed to kind of help me keep from adding books to my TBR and then never ever getting around to them, kind of like a Discovery of Witches, because I had that on my TBR and on my shelf for years at that point. And I liked how that was going, but I'm not happy with it now. I have, as you can see from this chart, 145 books total on my TBR. Now, this doesn't include books that are started on my TBR and then are continued into a series. So, for example, Red Rising is a book that is technically in my generic TBR list. However, only the first book of that series is listed. So if I like that, then I'm going to have all of those other books, I think it's 5 more after that, that's going to technically be added to my TBR. So once I start a series, that's going to be moved down to the series started section where I actually have out those numbers. And the goal is to, once I finish these series that are already open, once I close a series, then I can start a new one up. So ideally, I only have 3 to 4 at most series open. So I don't want to start something like Red Rising if I haven't finished one of these other series that I just talked about. And hopefully that's going to kind of bring it down. So I changed from a set of 10 listing to A tier and B tier. And this year I've added a lot of books to my TBR, as you can tell. Some of them I'm more excited about than others, and I've decided to just go ahead and have them listed as A tier and B tier. I also have an owned TBR set, so I'm going to focus on the books that I already own because I've bought a lot of books this year and I need to focus on those. So coming through the year, if I come across something like a book on sale or something like that from my A tier, then I'm going to go ahead and get it. Probably, maybe, I don't know. But I'd like to focus on, after these series, completing books that I already own, and then the top tier books would be books that I kind of cycle through once I get through my owned TBR, then kind of try to work off of the A tier. B tier is there because I'm still excited about those books and I want to read them. However, I may not get to them anytime soon, but if someone is doing like a buddy read or a readathon with them, then I can still kind of pull from that because I do want to read them. They're just not quite as important to me as the ones that I own and then the A tier. Now, I've left my want to read shelf open. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do something kind of called balancing the books. You all may not be aware of this, but I do have an accounting degree, so I like the idea of balancing the books where I want to slow down on how many books I'm adding to my TBR, because I feel like I will never get to half of these books at this rate because I just keep adding them, but I can't read them fast enough. So I want to try to hold off adding new books unless they are from certain authors and things like that until I can kind of work down some of this old TBR list. Starting in January, anything that I add to my TBR is just going to stay in that want to read shelf. So kind of like with my B tier, if buddy reads come up or things like that, then I may bump them up and just pull them out of there. But I would like to try to keep the number of books I add to the want to read shelf the same or lower as the number of books that I mark as read. So if I read 4 books in January, then I don't want to add more than 4 books in January to my TBR as well. And we'll call that balancing the books basically in that segment on my wrap-ups. So I'd like to kind of keep up with this, see how my TBR list changes. And as you can see, I also have project series listed there. So we've got all the books in The Wheel of Time by Robert Jordan. We have Gardens of the Moon, which is Malazan Book of the Fallen by Steven Erikson. And I'll be doing that as a read along with Mike's book reviews. We also have Stormlight Archive, which is by Brandon Sanderson. So funny story, I have 2 copies of this book now. I have the UK covers where it's split in 2, but they're not as easy to read because they're not quite as floppy as these. And you've got 2 books instead of 1, so this is in a singular binding. So I may actually annotate this one. I'm not really sure, but I am going to be working on it as well. And then I also have the Dresden Files, which I'm going to be listening to on audio, as well as The Witcher, which is kind of bottom of the rung. I'm not super excited about The Witcher anymore. I love the games. That's how I was first introduced. I loved the games, absolutely. But sometimes I just get a little bored when I'm not following Geralt, because he was what I liked about the games the most, was Geralt's character. And I get kind of bored when we're not following him. So I'll eventually get to that series, but it'll be there and I'll work on it. So like I said, I've got these project series, so Wheel of Time, Malazan, and Stormlight Archive. Those are my project series. A lot of you are aware that I do breakdowns of the Wheel of Time chapter by chapter on my channel, and those are probably my favorite videos that I do, and I get the most engagement out of them. It's super fun. I want to do something similar with Malazan and Stormlight Archive. I'm not going to do it exactly the same, but I do think I want to do like a reading journal type thing where I do kind of break it down either by part or by chapter. I may do longer videos, so I may do maybe by part, but still talk about each chapter depending on the length, but do it by part for the other 2 books, because it does take a lot of time. It's a lot of filming, but I do enjoy them the most. So it's going to be a nice balancing act. My goal is to finish The Great Hunt by the end of this year, and then what I'm going to do is probably read and film the entirety of The Dragon Reborn rather than film as I go. I think I'm going to film as I go rather than posting as I go. I think I'm going to read and film, but wait until I finish the book and then start posting those videos. That way there's some continuity. That way if I have to miss a week of filming or something, you all are still getting the steady stream of videos for the Wheel of Time. I have the expectation that I want them out once a week, and I want to fulfill that expectation. So I'm hoping that if I kind of change how and when I post them, that hopefully I won't get behind in my filming schedule. And I think I'm going to do the same thing for Gardens of the Moon and The Way of Kings. But I've got big ideas for the channel, mostly to do with this kind of work and discussions. I just really love kind of diving deep. Alright, so that is going to be my 2021 focus and goals. The main objective is to get that 145 number slowly whittling down, and I'd like to kind of keep this chart going throughout the year and kind of include that in my wrap-ups to keep you all aware. So definitely be on the lookout for more Wheel of Time, the Malazan series, Stormlight Archive. All these big things are coming to the channel in the new year, and I'm really excited. By that time, my husband's schedule will be more set in stone. I'll have a more steady filming schedule, and hopefully a more steady uploading schedule as well, and no more crazy things happen today. Let's just hope that 2021 is much better than 2020 has been for everybody, because it's been a rough one. So if y'all have any questions or suggestions for me, go ahead and leave them down in the comments. Let me know what your 2021 plans are, or if you're just gonna wing it, because at this point I'm planning a lot, and I'm really interested to see how well I stick to this plan come the end of 2021, because my plans from the beginning of 2020 are very different than what they are now. So it's kind of cool to see how that changes across the channel. So let me know about you, and y'all are as good as gold. Y'all take care. Bye.